The Epic of Hammurabi, from muddy canals to marble laws. What if I told you that one of the most iconic phrases in history, an eye for an eye, wasn't born in a courtroom, but carved into stone by a king who built empires, crushed rivals, and still found time to cancel debts and sculpt statues? How did a dusty port city called Babylon go from backwater to the beating heart of civilization? Why did Hammurabi, a ruler with the flair of a rock star and the ruthlessness of a warlord, choose to destroy Mari instead of rule it? And what made his law code so revolutionary that it still echoes in modern legal systems today? This isn't just history, it's a saga of ambition, betrayal, divine justice, and bitumen-fueled boat battles. From muddy canals to marble laws, from border skirmishes to divine stele, we're diving deep into the life and legacy of Hammurabi, the builder, the breaker, the god king. You'll laugh, you'll gasp, you'll probably clutch your teeth when Law 200 comes up. But most of all, you'll understand how one man's obsession with order shaped the world, and why his laws still matter thousands of years later. So buckle up, history lovers, because this isn't just a documentary, it's a Mesopotamian thriller. Make sure to follow us, smash that subscribe button, and ring the notification bell like it's the gong of justice itself, so you never miss another epic tale of history, intrigue, and eyebrow-raising ancient drama. Trust me, you'll want front row seats for what's coming next. Once upon a time, long before TikTok, traffic jams, or taxes, well, maybe not taxes, there lived a man named Hammurabi, who woke up one morning in 1792 BCE and said, "You know what? I think I'll build an empire today." At the time, Babylon was barely more than a glorified truck stop on the Euphrates River. It had trade, it had boats, it had ambition, but it lacked the sparkle of greatness. That, dear reader, was about to change. Hammurabi was an Amorite, part of a nomadic people who had a knack for turning tents into temples. He inherited Babylon as a minor city-state, overshadowed by flashier neighbors like Larsa and Eshnunna. But Hammurabi wasn't just a ruler. He was a visionary with a shovel and a spreadsheet. He built canals like a Mesopotamian Bob the Builder, ensuring goods could flow like gossip at a royal banquet. He spent an entire year crafting a statue of Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, because nothing says "I love you" like a 20-foot stone sculpture. He canceled debts like a benevolent banker, winning the hearts of his people and the envy of neighboring kings. For 3 decades, Hammurabi played the long game. No flashy wars, no dramatic betrayals, just infrastructure, diplomacy, and divine PR. Then came year 30, and Hammurabi decided it was time to flex. His first target? Elam, a city rich in tin, lapis lazuli, and attitude. Elam had been bullying Mari and Eshnunna, and Hammurabi, ever the strategic chess master, sided with Mari. Unfortunately, Elam's army was like a Mesopotamian version of Thanos, massive, relentless, and annoyingly victorious. But Hammurabi didn't give up. He forged alliances, played defense, and eventually, in 1763 BCE, Elam's ruler Siwe Palar Kupak threw in the towel. Babylon had its first major win, and Hammurabi was just getting warmed up. Next came Larsa and Eshnunna, both strategically vital and previously untouchable. Hammurabi conquered them with the precision of a surgeon and the flair of a Broadway star. By the time he was done, Babylon wasn't just a city, it was the city. Now, with Babylon booming and rivals bowing, Hammurabi faced a new challenge: how to keep order in an empire full of farmers, merchants, priests, and the occasional goat thief. Enter the Code of Hammurabi. Written around 1754 BCE, this legal masterpiece had 282 laws carved into a 7-foot basalt stele like a divine instruction manual. It covered everything from trade and property to marriage, theft, and assault. If you poked someone's eye out, guess what? You were losing yours too. Lex talionis, baby. The code was inscribed in Akkadian and placed in the temple of Marduk, Babylon's chief god, like a sacred billboard of justice. But Hammurabi didn't just write laws, he wrote legacy. His code was advanced for its time, integrating Sumerian traditions with Amorite governance. It rejected blood feuds and vigilante justice, favoring structured trials and proportional punishment. It all began with a city named Hit. Not a chart-topping single, but a place rich in bitumen, the ancient world's duct tape. Hammurabi needed it for his boats, which were basically Mesopotamian Uber, ferrying goods and warriors alike. But Mari, his frenemy to the west, had other plans. They used the river near Hit for sacred rituals, think courtroom drama meets holy water. To To them, hit wasn't just sticky, it was sacred. Enter Elam, the ancient referee. Still flexing its muscles from earlier conquests, Elam sided with Mari. Babylon was not amused. Hammurabi didn't just raise an eyebrow, he raised an army. First stop, Hana, a border region that Hammurabi poked like a bear with a stick. Babylonian forces swarmed from the north and south, and Zimri-Lim, Mari's ruler, scrambled to defend his turf. But Hammurabi was playing 4D chess while Zimri-Lim was still figuring out checkers. When Babylon finally attacked Mari, it wasn't a polite takeover, it was a demolition party. Hammurabi didn't annex the city, he obliterated it. Zimri-Lim vanished from history like a bad plot twist, and Mari was reduced to rubble and regret. With Mari out of the picture, Hammurabi went on a conquest spree like a kid in a candy store. Except the candy was cities, and the kid had a sword. For 5 years, he gobbled up nearby territories, then pivoted from warlord to lawmaker. He appointed governors like a Mesopotamian HR manager, ensuring loyalty and control. Local identities persisted, but Babylon was now the beating heart of the empire. Who was Hammurabi, really? We don't know much. He had several wives, names lost to time, and at least 3 children. His heir, Samsu-iluna, inherited the empire, but Hammurabi's true legacy wasn't in bloodlines, it was in basalt. He was called Bani Matim, builder of the land, and worshipped Marduk, Shamash, and Ishtar, gods of power, justice, and fertility. He rewarded loyalty, punished betrayal, and built like his life depended on it. Then came the pièce de résistance, the Code of Hammurabi. Carved into black diorite like a divine TED Talk, it contained 282 laws, though about 40 were later erased by rulers with editing privileges. Rediscovered in 1901 by Jacques de Morgan in Susa, the stele showed Hammurabi praying to Shamash, the sun god of justice. It wasn't just law, it was divine mandate. Highlights include presumption of innocence, the first known law code to say, hey, maybe we should prove guilt before punishment. Evidence matters. False accusations without proof, death. No pressure. Famous laws. Law 196, if a man put out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out. The original, eye for an eye. Law 200, if a man knock out the teeth of his equal, his teeth shall be knocked out. Dental justice. Harsh? Yes. Revolutionary? Absolutely. Hammurabi's code influenced Hebrew law, including the Book of Exodus, and laid the groundwork for modern legal systems. These laws were so iconic, they made their way into Hebrew biblical law, immortalized in the phrase, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. Hammurabi was basically the original influencer. His content went viral for millennia. But Hammurabi's code wasn't just about revenge, it was a complex web of compensation, oaths, and social hierarchy. Babylon was a society where your status determined your fate. If you were a noble and someone broke your arm, they'd pay a hefty fine. If you were a slave, the fine might be a goat and a shrug. Compensation for harm, calculated like Mesopotamian math homework, based on who you were and who hurt you. Oaths, sacred promises that could make or break a case. Swear falsely, you might end up swimming in the river to prove your innocence. Payment for services. From doctors to builders, Hammurabi had a price list. If a surgeon botched an operation, he could lose a hand. Talk about malpractice insurance. The code wasn't just for nobles and warriors, it governed the daily grind. Farmers had rules about irrigation and crop damage. Merchants had laws about trade and contracts. Families had guidelines for marriage, inheritance, and even adoption. It was like a Mesopotamian version of The Sims, but with more consequences and fewer llamas. At the end of the code, Hammurabi didn't just say the end. He wrote an epilogue that was basically a royal flex. He declared his laws righteous and just. He claimed divine backing from gods like Shamash. He promised protection for the weak and punishment for the wicked. It was part legal doctrine, part motivational speech, and part ancient PR campaign. Interestingly, Hammurabi's code focused solely on civil law. Military law? Foreign policy? That was left to the battlefield and the backroom deals. Scholars still debate how the code was used. Some say it wasn't a courtroom manual, but a compilation of past rulings, like a legal scrapbook of Babylon's greatest hits. When Hammurabi died in 1750 BCE, he didn't just leave behind an empire. He left behind a legend. Children were named after him. He was revered as a god. And his laws? Rediscovered in 1901 on a black diorite stele in Susa, they became one of the most important legal documents in history. While other rulers were remembered for battles and bloodshed, Hammurabi was remembered for balance and justice. His code influenced later civilizations, including the Hebrews, Greeks, and Romans. And today it's studied in law schools, history classes, and trivia nights around the world. So next time you hear an eye for an eye, remember, it wasn't just poetic, it was policy. Hammurabi didn't just rule Babylon, he ruled the rule book. And that, dear viewers, is the saga of Hammurabi, the builder of Babylon, the breaker of Mari, and the lawmaker who made justice a household name. From muddy canals to divine decrees, his legacy still shapes the way we think about fairness, order, and the power of a well-placed stele. But this is just one chapter in the grand library of ancient intrigue we're unlocking. So before you ride off into the Mesopotamian sunset, make sure to follow us, hit that subscribe button, and tap the notification bell like it's the gong of Hammurabi himself, so you'll be the first to know when we drop more jaw-dropping stories from history's hidden corners.